Hello, everyone, to the Dwellin' Tiger podcast. It is I, Joey Llewellyn, and today, before I actually get into the episode itself, I've been having this one dwelling for quite a bit now, and it's totally nothing significant at all. Trust me, if you want to skip this part, please skip it. I mean, I think it'll take maybe like at least 2 minutes max to talk about this real quick. So go ahead, do that if you don't want to listen to it. But I just want to talk about it real quick because I just need to get it off my chest. Totally, again, not significant at all. Recently on YouTube, Instagram, other media platforms, I've been noticing how these like food companies that are like, they look trendy, and they sell like, you know, gummies, like candy, some kind of chips, like really like, how do I say? Like, they just look trendy to me. Yeah, they just look trendy. Maybe that's just me being, you know, me living under a rock. But the thing that I've been dwelling on is the boxes that these things comes in. I think these boxes are only like or used when sent to like famous people or YouTubers to review them or to promote them. But I've been noticing how there's a lot of these companies using these shoe box looking boxes, but they look a lot fancier. And I'm sure they're just cardboard in the end, but they just look like fancy cardboard. And what's more appealing about it is the artwork on it. And it's very poppy. It's very like, you know, mesmerizing maybe with some of them. And the way the contents are organized inside, and even what the contents are, just adds on to that, you know, adds on to the depth, if you want to call it that, whatever it is, to the overall art, right? To the overall package, the gift. And I've just been noticing that all the companies are using this almost, or at least a lot of them, whoever sends them to these YouTubers and whatnot. That's where I've been noticing these boxes among YouTubers. And I don't know why. I don't know why I've been so, I don't want to use obsessed because that makes me seem crazy. I just been so like focused on this for some time. I don't know why. Again, to me, it makes me think like, what's going on with these like, you know, these marketing meetings? You know, are these like, I mean, it's like one company did this, right? And a YouTuber, you know, let's say reviewed it, and then because of that, that company received a bunch of money from it, or it just was so successful, right? Maybe their stocks went up and whatever, right? I'm thinking like in these marketing meetings for these other companies, they were probably like, all right, so we're seeing these the numbers rising up in the company A, and we need to do the same thing. What we need to do, these YouTubers these days are the youngins, they're the millennials, maybe Gen Z. What do we need to do in order to make our numbers go high like company A? They need to be fire. They need to be dope. They need to be dope as, and they need to be, and most importantly, cool. They need to be cool, guys. What can we do? We can use a shoebox. Excellent. Let's go into that and let's get this going. Guys, we're gonna become billionaires by the end of this. That's just what that's what I think maybe goes on in these high level marketing meetings. Or maybe it's just what happens in my head. Who knows? Yeah, that probably took more than 2 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Let's just cut it there. I don't want to think about it anymore, but I got enough off my chest to just hopefully calm down with this whole shoebox aesthetics trend thing that I've noticed. Purely observational, nothing important. So let's get into the episode itself. Now, it's pretty much mid-December, towards the end of this year of the COVID, all the craziness. And it is a time to self-reflect and look back on everything that has happened. For me, at least, I don't usually do this. I'm just usually, I think objectively, just really clear-cut, like, okay, I already know what generally happened with me. I already know what experiences I had. I generally know what I learned from them, and let's just move on to the next year. That's it. That's done. So never really getting in touch, doing all that, I don't know, looking back, self-reflection stuff, at least regarding the year. I just did not really believe in it. Like, you know, very similar to like New Year's resolutions. It's like you don't really need to do these resolutions at New Year's. It's nice, right? It gives you like a motivation boost, but I feel like it puts on just a lot more pressure, right? If you decide to, let's say, start losing weight beginning of the new year, then if you do fail sometime along the road, that's okay, right? In the grand scheme of things, that's totally fine. There's not even a minute of, problems or issues right there, but people just lay on the expectations because it was a New Year's resolution and they failed, right? Maybe they're doing a 30-day challenge or like a 90-day challenge or something like that, or not a challenge, but like a program, some kind of workout program. There's a lot of pressure with that. So for me, it's just like, you can reflect, you can look back on the year, you can do all that stuff anytime, really. Just do it anytime. Don't really like restrict yourself. But this year is a bit special, right? Like I mentioned, it's the year of the COVID. So I was trying to just, reflect on this year, and there was not too much to reflect on, but there were a lot of big things that were really just prevalent that I could definitely reflect on and gain something from it and just look deeper into. So that was mainly about how I was just stuck in this hole that I dug myself into and just allow myself to live in there. And then I just living like that for months. Essentially what I mean is, when the lockdown happened in California, which was around, I want to say mid-March, I pretty much just gave up everything. And there was like other variables that kind of like crippled me in a sense. And I fell down into one of the deepest holes I've ever fell down into in my life. So my mental health was just quite shitty, if I may say so myself. And things were just bad, and I allowed it to be bad. And then I didn't even want to feel bad, so then I just tried to overall escape from it all. I just wanted to, take my mind elsewhere through, in this case, it was like in the form of like media entertainment, like whether it was like Netflix, YouTube, like manga, like, comic books, stuff like that, other kind of books. And that was pretty much like the majority of the, at least from when lockdown began in mid-March to now. However, things did change for the better around early November, maybe mid-October-ish, for the better, like I said. And that was just because I wanted to change. I made those changes for myself. It wasn't like some miracle or a fairy godmother came down and did that bippity boppity boop, and now, Joey, you're not depressed anymore. Nothing like that. I decided to make a change for myself, and what helped a lot was just listening to some podcasts I discovered, and having that spark of motivation really did help. But to understand how I got myself out of this really deep hole that I was in, mentally, even my physical well-being, right? I was just pretty much very sedentary to, around early November where things start to change for the better. It's better to go back to, let's go back to 1996 when I was born, and not that far, but around September 2019, where I was, it was essentially the beginning of the fall quarter of UC Davis, and I was just finishing up some classes for my major. Wasn't a big deal, but I decided to take this time as well to, one, work a part-time job at this running specialty shop, and two, join the UC Davis triathlon club team. Now, I never done something like this. Just like joining a club team or like an org per se throughout my undergrad years. I did join one org, but it was more for like academics, for a research program. So it was fun in its own way. It was enjoyable and fulfilling, but it wasn't like something purely like based off of hobbies, like triathlon, right? Some kind of sports team and whatnot. So I did those two things, and let me tell you, those were the brightest times and the funnest times I ever had throughout my undergraduate career. Just from the time I spent doing the part-time job at the running shop and joining the team from September 2019 to, I guess, we can just say till the, mid-March, where things start to lock down and I couldn't really go back to Davis anymore because of other issues, like more so with family, and I'll get into that. But I just was so happy with this. I always was interested in just joining the team, and I actually tried joining the team my freshman year of college back in 2015 when I discovered there's a crazy sport like triathlon. Like I thought you were just running and swimming maybe. Now, what is cycling? What? And you do all three? Hello, you're about to hear one of my passionate, fast-paced ramblings, this time about the cost of entry-level triathlon training and racing gear. If you're interested, please enjoy it for what it's worth. If not, skip ahead to around 2 minutes and 20 seconds after the short message. Thank you. And I didn't even pay attention to the cost of it all. Oh my god, how much does it cost? Running part is not that expensive, right? I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people have gym clothes and some kind of running shoes, which will suffice, right? Don't need anything fancy. Like those $250 Vaporfly shoes from Nike, the road racing ones, but they even have a more expensive one that I think is around $275, the Alpha Flies. Oh god, you don't need those at all. But let me tell you, they do feel pretty good on your feet. And I know that from experience. Wink, wink. But yes, I don't know why I did that laugh in the end. That was, very cringy when I think back to it, and awkward. But anyways, yeah, you don't need any fancy equipment for running. And then for cycling, that's where a lot of the money's going to come in. You gotta spend money on a bike. And for a road bike, an entry-level road bike, all the gear from your what you wear to the stuff on your bike to the bike itself and some other things like accessories would be maybe $1,100. I mean, maybe if you find good people on some kind of swap website or group page on Facebook, maybe around the total cost can be $900. I mean, it's still a lot, but not, honestly, it's not that expensive compared to what you could buy or other options out there in the market. Swimming, all you really need is a wetsuit, and for training, you'll be usually training for lap swimming in the lap pool. That's your main space for swimming sessions. So you don't really need any fancy gear for that all too much. And even if you do have some training gear, some paddles and buoys, and if you guys know what those are, you guys know what I'm talking about, but they're essentially gear to help you with your swimming, increase your strength, let's say, for your strokes. Nonetheless, a wetsuit for the actual triathlon races is the bulk of the money for the swimming portion. So that's maybe around $200-$400 for an entry level. I mean, maybe even cheaper depending on the brand, but it can definitely go up to $900 or maybe even a little bit more. So yeah, I don't even know why I went to triathlon training. It was I'll say this about that. It shows how much I love triathlons, and that how much I regret not joining back in my freshman year when I found out that this was a sport. How crazy is it to do 3 different sports in one race? And I did join my freshman year, but that first quarter I was very shy and very hesitant to keep going. And then once the winter quarter started, the following year, I was just not coming anymore. I was way too shy. My confidence as an athlete was just so low. I was just not, I don't know, just not ready in a sense, I guess, or just personally wasn't ready to do this with other people, and especially be part of a team. So I just decided to train on my own because triathlon is an individual based sport. And yeah, after joining the triathlon team my fall quarter of 2019, best decision ever. I loved everyone on the team, even though I was still quite shy and quiet. Just being around everyone, the camaraderie, just sharing the pain with those speed workouts on the track for running practice. So much fun. I loved it. And now let me talk about my running job. That brought so much joy as well. I mean, it made me realize maybe just considering a career in some kind of athletics field, because it was a running shop where I was pretty much a retail, what do you call them? Retail associate? I think that's what they're called. But pretty much I was helping customers, with picking out the right running shoes for them. So I would learn about their needs, their goals, and any kind of special conditions that they have. And then, guide them to the right shoes and let them try them out, see what works, what's comfortable. And yeah, I mean, nothing like a scheme, just truly helping them. And I love that part of the job, just really helping and educating and even talking about running. I love talking about it. I mean, you can already see how I was like talking about triathlons. Just about the price itself and the gear. I mean, I'm very passionate about it. And yeah, that running job, it just made me realize, maybe I do want to consider something along the lines of athletics in my career in the future, or something like that. I mean, I don't know yet. It's something I would need to explore. But yeah, those two things, triathlon training with the team and the running job, really made my life better. And at the time, I was commuting from my mother's home, and it was about a 40-minute drive from there to UC Davis, and it wasn't a bad drive, but going to UC Davis was definitely my safe haven. And even more so with the triathlon training and my running job, because there's a lot of to say it lightly, my mother and I don't really see eye to eye, and that can often lead to, well, more often than not, I would often just give in to what she says and what she thinks, and that just plays a huge mental stress on myself, and it just made me feel like I was truly imprisoned, and just pretty much it was like more like crippling depression. And even though the way I'm saying it doesn't maybe portray that, definitely I was in a rough shape back then. And even if I had that obstacle back home in my life, going to UC Davis and doing the triathlon training and then going to my part-time job at the running shop just kind of erased everything. It made me stronger and able to persevere through the thick of it, in my household situation, especially with my mother. So that was pretty much my situation from September 2019 till like it's March-ish of 2020. Now, when the lockdown hit, that changed everything, because all the businesses were shutting down temporarily just to like figure out the safety protocols for working with customers or just having customers in the store. And for the triathlon practice, our races were canceled, and I was dead set on going to the nationals race. I think was coming up in April or May, but it's not something that the entire team can go to for triathlon. And I was chosen despite that being my first year joining the team, and I just felt like honored. Like this is my first time joining the team. Like I'm the quiet guy, and I still get to go. Like wow. Like I was trying to train as hard as I can so that I can just really do my team and my coach proud at the race. But the lockdown hit, and then team practices were done, and the same thing happened with the nationals race. I mean, at the time they just postponed it until like October, I believe, but it was pretty much a for sure thing where the race was going to be canceled, and it is canceled. So I lost essentially all of my outlets to de-stress, all of my like safe havens, my nirvanas, if you want to call them that, in just one swoop. And then where that left me was back home, sitting in my bedroom, facing the grunt of all the shit, to put it lightly again, with my mom. And it was really bad. I decided to pretty much disconnect with everything and everyone. And so that, in terms of, let's say, social media, I decided to delete everything except for Instagram and Facebook. But even with Facebook, I just tried to delete everything on there, make it like just bare, like scarce, and just block everything, or just privatize everything on my Facebook. Same thing with my Instagram. I just deleted everything, my profile pic, bio, everything, all the Instagram posts, everything. Unfollow everyone and have them unfollow me, or force them to unfollow me through my own means. And I would just follow just pages I found interesting that were not people I knew of in real life. So that was what happened with social media, and one way to pretty much disconnect, go AWOL essentially. And then in regards to my phone contacts, I just deleted all my contacts. And it wasn't that I had many people whom I could I guess you can say like contact on a day-to-day basis, or just, whenever like you would do with a friend. I just, again, with any contacts I had, just delete them all. And I just did anything I could to disconnect and go dark with everyone. And that was something that I felt like I wanted to do, and I felt okay with doing, because it just seemed like, it's not like I talked to anyone already. And I mean, what am I doing now? Right now, I'm literally imprisoned in my own home. I can't really go outside, even if I don't interact or go to a place where people are at, right? I mean, I would try to justify some reasons for going out, and the purposes for doing so with my mother. And that just made things worse, because her responses to those proposals were just unfair. Because, for example, I was still trying to like do triathlon training, and granted, I can't really go swim because all the pools are closed, and there are supplemental workouts I can do at home, so that was okay. I could go running still kind of outside, but at the time my mother was super hesitant in letting me do that, so I just couldn't run. And then for cycling, I proposed that, hey, I know these country roads where there's literally like no houses, even just cars driving by. And honestly, no people. And I was trying to be as considerate as I can be with the whole lockdown situation. But when the idea of going outside was brought to light with my mother, it was just shut down hard and fast. And she can turn into a tiger real quick and easily. And that was something I did not want to mess with. And nothing I'm like too concerned about, but I just did not want to deal with it. I'm sure other people who have, not just Asian parents, but maybe just immigrant parents, you try to understand them. They came from a different country. They grew up with different beliefs and teachings. So you can understand and try to rationalize their actions and behavior and their requests, if you want to call it that, of you. But man, it just made me feel like depressed, made me feel lonely. And on top of that, I also added on to that myself, like what I said earlier, deleting the social media, removing people, friends, and blocking people, whatever, right? Whatever the case is, it was just really bad. And I didn't know what to do about it. And the only thing I knew what to do to cope with it was just to try to escape. And so, beginning of the lockdown, I would just escape from my own reality, my own situation, through the means of like manga, reading other kinds of books, entertainment like Netflix, YouTube. I already mentioned it all earlier. So that's what I did from like March to like maybe I think September, October. Probably up until October, maybe September. And that was just my life every day, essentially. I was just so depressed, so just did not want to live, in a sense. Nothing suicidal. Okay, I don't want to say that, because that's a bit of a sensitive topic and thought process, but it's nothing close to that. I just did not want to think about life at all in any regards. And so I figured if my mom is going to put all these restrictions on me, I might as well let myself go. I don't care. I will just not do anything. I won't train. Everything I did up until the lockdown would just go to waste, and I'll just let it go to waste. Thinking about that hurt me a lot, right? It's like you built something up for your own self that you were proud of. It's not nothing like silly, right? It's serious stuff. Like I gained a lot of insight about possibilities in my career and hobbies with athletics through my running job, and I just really just went at it and dived into my passion for triathlon training and just triathlons in general and sports in general, actually. And I built up to I gained so much from it. I built so many things off of those things, those passions, but I just felt like everything was taken away from me and or just knocked down purposely. And I just felt I just wasted all my time. Like, where did all this time go? Just for this, just for me to stay in my room, not do anything, where I can't compromise, like reasonably compromise with my own mother, where I won't interact with people. I won't get close to people. Heck, I'll even go to just a barren like wasteland, right, where there's absolutely no people. But it didn't matter. It was unreasonable. It didn't make sense. But I couldn't really argue back. One, because, like I mentioned, I didn't want to deal with the stress and the arguments with my mother. But the biggest thing I couldn't argue back was the fact that she is actually 65 years and older, a part of that group, and she has breast cancer, type 2 breast cancer. So, she's obviously at risk. And she's, by the way, she's not sick right now. She's doing perfectly fine. She had all her treatments. Everything's good with her. I mean, she's walking every day 5 miles or something like that, eating well, doing things well. She does not even look like someone who has cancer or is sick in general. Yeah, still, she's part of that risk group, and I just couldn't argue against that, which is totally valid. But just how she didn't just want to compromise with me or just want to understand me. Like, heck, just to be understood would have been something. And I just did not get that from her. And it's a big issue I've always had throughout my life with her. It's just never just, being given the things I would think that would help me, but just to also just be understood about the things I want to do that would help me, or maybe it's just some simple desire that I want to pursue because I think it's fun or awesome, whatever it may be. Yeah, I was living with just a lack of those things from my own parents, or my mother, not my parents. But yes, I just didn't have that. I didn't even have the emotional support from her, and I was her emotional support essentially. And that's a whole nother world, a whole nother topic regarding like family trauma and such, and intergenerational trauma, I believe it's kind of more described as. But yes, I mean, I pretty much, I was imprisoned. I couldn't do anything due to unreasonable, but yet also reasonable reasons. And I just read manga, read other books, watched Netflix, YouTube, all that kind of jazz. Play video games even for the majority of the lockdown, and every day is just a blur. When I look back, I can't believe I did all that stuff, or that I wasted my time. And it was, man, I feel regretful, because when you start to do the things you need to do that you should be doing, you always feel like you could have done it sooner. Why didn't you do it sooner? And that's what I felt around that mid-October to beginning November period, where I started to make a change for the better for my life. And that was brought about because I discovered through all my binging on YouTube and Spotify a podcast. And I also revisited channels that I used to watch in the past, but then just revisited them, and those things gave me that spark of motivation. Just a little bit. And I took advantage of it, and I went at it by taking up training again, by doing stuff that I was always been interested in but never really pursued it, like podcasting. I've always been interested in podcasting, especially the production side of things. So here I am doing it, right? And in a way, I am somewhat thankful that I chose something media as my form of letting myself go and my means to escape from my own reality, because I was binging YouTube a lot, and I would go to these YouTube channels, especially it was Wong Fu, and then a podcast called don't laugh, Asian Boss Girl. It's definitely it's more geared towards Asian American women, working women, I would say, if I remember their bio correctly. Despite that, they had a lot of stuff that I could relate to, like dating, career choice, just life choices in general. And that just really made me I guess understand my own situation and just feel like I wasn't alone. And that because these people, these girls, these women were doing the same thing as me and had these similar troubles, maybe even different but somewhat parallel, I just somehow felt that burst of a motivation to just, hey, start up training again. Pursue podcasting, pursue these other things that I want to do that I know I should be doing. Even if I don't find it as enjoyable, just do it because I know it's good for me. It was just like a burst. It was like my eyes were open for the first time. And I don't want to be cheesy with this, right? with the colorful explanations. But that was what happened with me. Yeah, I just kept listening to this podcast, The Asian Boss Girl, and I just kept watching the Wong Fu videos, and that just made me feel better overall. And in a way, I felt like my whole sedentary life period during lockdown was like me in a cocoon, in a sense. Because the me prior to lockdown and the me after, after starting to do the things I should be doing around like that beginning of November, like I felt like I'm a totally different person. Just how I interact with people, how I open up about things, like let's say my mental health and other situations that normally I wouldn't be really comfortable talking about. Just overall, like my biggest issues in life were just more social related. I was always shy, introverted. Not that, being introverted is bad, but just really reserved and just I felt like socially incompetent. But somehow I feel like I'm not as incompetent as I was before the lockdown. But now it's like totally different, and I don't really know how to describe or just recall like what really brought about this change. And all I can do is speculate, right? Because I had pretty much nothing going on during this sedentary life period during lockdown. Maybe after listening to these podcasts, I found insights. And that insight, because I was so empty already, as depressing as that sounds, just filled me up. And that was, what became of me afterwards, who I am today, right now. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but I just feel better. And I still have the same issues as I had with my mother back then as I do now. Occasionally there will be those, yelling contests, right? Just to put it lightly, those yelling contests, see who gets the gold and the silver, and there's no bronze. It goes just between me and her. I just was doing things for the better. And even though I had those family obstacles, or more so those yelling contests, I was busy with those trying to win. I didn't let those get in my way. I still continue doing my training. Like, for example, like I'm just walking right now, and I'm doing this like strength mobility and functional strength training right now because when I started running again, I became injured real quick. And I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to mess up again. What can I do? And I don't want to just go back to like baby steps. I want to go back to a step that I know I can manage myself. So I decided just to take up more strength and mobility training to build a better foundation as an athlete. Yeah, to do that, I just started walking like at least 10K steps a day and adding some cardio here and there just to like, still maintain and if not build up my cardio endurance and my, cardiovascular strength. But especially I bought this like body workout program that's beneficial for mobility and functional strength. And I also downloaded this app on the Google Play Store, and it's just like a free app, like a very basic, doesn't seem like fancy app, but I'm just doing it just to like work out my muscles. It's nothing special. Like before I used to think like this app's crap, it's trash, like why do I want to waste my time doing these workouts? It's not a good workout, but it's something, right? I want to add on to it, to what I am doing already. And it helped a lot, and I'm still doing it. And, it's just doing something at least. And I feel good about it. Before, during the, sedentary life period, I was so scared to start anything. And that was one of the other biggest obstacles I had during this lockdown, was I was way too scared to find out how low I've fallen athletically. Regarding other aspects of my life, for example, like pursuing some of my interest in the creative field, like podcasting or just production in general, and I wasn't really too scared to start those per se. I was just like super unmotivated to do so. But the fact that I was like just so concerned and like anxious about finding out how low my athletic ability dropped down to, that just really just made me not even want to do anything at all, let alone training. Just nothing, no creative outlets, no like looking to grad schools, let's say, which was what I'm doing and have been doing. Nothing like that, nothing productive essentially. And that just made me want to go back to escaping from reality. Just that one thing, just that one anxiety and fear of finding out my, athletic ability, how low it stopped or stooped down to. Because, I would compare myself to back then, prior to lockdown, which I believe I was like pretty up there. Yeah, in terms of athletic ability. Yeah, I was scared, but once I got over that fear through the podcast I was listening to and revisiting like some channels on YouTube that I used to watch, and that for some reason I think that nostalgia like also brought about that motivation, or at least sparked it. But once I got that back, I just figured that, and said to myself, just start small, or something small-ish, right? Nothing like baby steps, like I mentioned. Just start something small and then work up from there. Just do something. And that, man, I said this like minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago or so, that once I did the things I know I should be doing, I just said to myself, I could have been doing this thing this entire time. Like, what the F was I doing? I could have still read manga. I still could have watched YouTube, binged all the shows and whatnot. But I could have also added like 10K steps a day, which is not bad at all. For me, it's at least like an hour and a half times worth of walking. And it's a great neighborhood that I live in, right? Or it doesn't even matter the neighborhood. Just go outside and start walking. It's not that bad. I listen to podcasts, listen to like new music on Spotify. It's not bad at all. For anyone, I recommend just start walking those 10K steps every day. And you don't have to do it in one session. Just make sure you walk 10K a day. And you don't even have to do a brisk walk. Just go walk normally. Because the one thing I've also learned, just real quick side note, just in case anyone is interested in finding out, if walking is super good for weight loss and for fitness overall, it is, because low impact training does promote more fat loss than, let's say, like high intensity training. Because when you do those like running, that's pretty intense sport, for example, right? That's usually the go-to when you want to try and lose some fat, other than nutrition and weightlifting, right? So when you do something that's high intensity or like high impact, like running, your body needs to have a quicker access to, your fuel. And the type of fuel that has quick access to is glycogen. So sugars from like, carbohydrates and pretty much the glycogen that's stored in your body, not the fat that's stored. But if you do more like lower impact, lower intensity, like walking, then you can actually tap into those fat stores and just lose a lot more fat steadily, and I would say more efficiently, but don't quote me on that because I have not read the primary research on it. It'd be interesting to do so, but this is just what I've learned from like reading a few articles and watching a few YouTube videos. And, I like to do that because I like to cross-reference, see who's bullshitting, see who's not, essentially. But yes, trust me, walk at least 10K a day, 10K steps, just a normal walk. And one, it's fun. You can just explore new parts of your neighborhood. And two, you can just listen to your favorite podcast and your favorite songs while you're out on the go. So great thing to do. Now going back to the main subject, I'm not trying to make this into a fitness episode, but actually, that'd be a fun episode to talk about because I'm super interested, or like just have so much fun talking about nutrition, sports, training, even athletic gear. I think that'd be fun. But yes, I'll do that for a future episode if you're interested in that. But yeah, going back to the main subject, what I did, I'm just doing 10K a day, or I mean, even more so than that, like probably nowadays, like around 12 to 15K a day. And I'm also doing like that functional strength workout program and doing this free app kind of workout for muscle growth, I guess, muscle growth promotion and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing big in my opinion, but it's definitely something. It gives me a good workout. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. what was I getting at with this? Yeah, I mean, just overall, I was just so scared starting the stuff I know I should be doing, especially with training and athletics. But once I got that spark of motivation and actually started doing the training again and other things, I just found out that it was not bad. It was just all in my mind. It's such a mental game. It is such a mental game. It's easier said to just say, it's a mental game. So just all you gotta do is just start. Just do it. Just start. That's easier to say than it is to do. So my advice for if you're ever stuck, just in a sedentary life, or you're just not doing the things that you should be doing and would probably even like to do, start listening to some podcasts, looking up some YouTube videos, because that can really spark that motivation to get you up and going and doing those things. Just do it. That's what helps me. And I suggest you do the same as well too, because motivation is not something you should depend on 100% of the time, but it is something that can definitely help the engine going in the beginning. And then from that point on, you can start building up your confidence. You can start building up that mental fortitude, that discipline, that willpower for you to continue on despite any kind of obstacles that life throws at you. Like, for example, me, I already said it earlier, but just to remind you guys, I was still having those yelling contests with my mom, and we just did not see eye to eye. But another thing that helped me was I just changed my perspective on my situation. Because, hey, I mean, my situation in my household was still dragging me down, was still making me really depressed, if I'm being completely honest. And I just changed my perspective. Like, hey, actually, it's not that bad, because I'm working around my situation, because I can go outside and walk. I can do these exercises at home, and I can still, pay attention to my nutrition, right? There's some compromise there at least. And I don't really need to go to these faraway places, right? I don't need to do all these like crazy traveling plans in order to go train or do whatever I think is, necessary for me. Just, you have to try to work around it if you don't want to cause any turmoil in your house. Because for me, I am a guy who just wants peace. If everyone's peace, that's a weird way to say it. If everyone's peaceful and happy, then I definitely am also happy and peaceful. Even if it does seem a little bit unfair on my end, it's okay. If I can work around it, as long as it's not impossible for me to do the things I know I should be doing, then that's okay. You just have to think about a little bit and not think too much, not dwell too much about your situation, right? Just think about a little bit and think about how to work around it. So that's pretty much how my quarantine has been in a nutshell. I mean, there's so many other events that's happened, but that's what I said today was pretty much what happened in the nutshell. And yeah, that was pretty long. I don't even know how long this episode's been going for. I think over 40 minutes. Wow, that went by fast, man. I'm gonna have a fun time listening back to this and editing some stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys did find this helpful more so. I mean, I know there wasn't as many probably jokes, and I wasn't being awkward as I've been told that I was in the first episode. I was in my intro episode. I didn't know that I was being awkward during the entire recording, but apparently I was, and it's something that people liked, and I was very surprised by that. I was like, I was not trying to be awkward, but if it works, or if that is, if it's me, right? I can't do anything about it. If I don't feel awkward, so, tell me again during this episode if it seemed like I was awkward. Please do that. I mean, it's just funny to find out and listen to. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, like I was trying to say earlier, thank you guys so much for listening till the end of this episode. Yeah, I hope you guys gained something from this more so. It wasn't like a silly, fun episode, I guess you can say. It was just something that has been on my mind for a long time. And now that I'm in a better place in life, even during the quarantine and lockdown still, I'm just in a better place where I can talk about this and share my insight so far, right? It's, the journey's not over still, but just to share what I've gained and realized so far with anyone who else is, experiencing the same things as I am, or maybe something different, but can still apply the things I did to their own situation. And just to let you guys know, what helped me a lot, again, with the podcast and the YouTube, what those podcast groups, I don't know what to call them exactly, but those channels and groups specifically, they are Asian Boss Girl. You can find them on YouTube and Spotify and other podcast platforms. They are great, especially if you're Asian American, and even more especially Asian American females, working females, maybe 3 especially in that one, definitely are relatable and very insightful and funny and great and raw and unfiltered. And if you just want some entertainment to give you that kind of like the, not fantastical, but kind of like the like more hopeful kind of a feeling that can also give you that motivation, like you become more optimistic about your future, and depending on whatever part of your life you're being more optimistic for. I mean, I was just checking out Wong Fu channel on YouTube and watching their shorts and their films, and it just gave me more, I guess, more insight and more confidence and more yeah, I was just more optimistic about my dating life, even though it's still non-existent. But yes, that just helped me become more optimistic, and that just helped with myself overall in this whole journey. So check those 2 out. There's another podcast very similar to Asian Boss Girl called Perfectly Imperfect, again on Spotify and other podcast platforms. They talk about the same stuff as Asian Boss Girl, essentially, very parallel to one another. So yeah, that's it. That's the episode. And thank you guys so much for listening till the end of the episode. Please support me by following me on anchor.fm/DWELLYNTIGER. That's pronounced Dwellin' Tiger. Anchor.fm/Dwellin' Tiger. And also by listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify and Google Podcasts. And especially support me by sharing this with your friends and family who may also just find this entertaining, insightful, or will just laugh their butts off. Whatever the case may be, please share this with anyone and everyone you know. If you have any comments, questions, or hopefully not concerns, or even topics that you'd like me to talk about, please email me at dwellintiger@gmail.com. That's spelled DWELLYN tiger@gmail.com, or DM me on Instagram at thejoeyll, and that's spelled THEJOEYLL. Wow, I was getting into that. But yes, DM me, or actually you can even message me on the anchor.fm website, because if you go on my page on the website, there is a messaging function that I think you can message either through text or through voice. So, whichever one is convenient, email, Instagram, or the Anchor website, choose whichever one you do. So, again, thank you guys so much for listening in, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.